Okay, so let's dive into this. We've all seen those absolutely stunning Hubble images, right?
Oh yeah, the nebulae, the galaxies, they're incredible.
They give you this amazing feel for the universe. But then there's the foundational stuff, astrometry.
The real precision measurement of stars. Hipparcos, for example.
Exactly. Hipparcos gave us this massive catalog, 5 volumes I read, just packed with numbers.
Uh-huh. Like a phone directory, basically.
Hmm?
Invaluable for science, of course.
Absolutely invaluable, but, visually, not exactly thrilling stuff.
Right, so that's the challenge we're looking at today, isn't it? How do you take that kind of data, this complex astrometry from Hipparcos and now Gaia, and make it come alive?
Yeah, how do you reveal the galaxy's hidden structures, its dynamics, using that data? That's our mission for this deep dive, understanding that transformation.
And it's fascinating because the raw data itself tells such a rich story, scientifically speaking.
Yeah.
Milky Way's structure, its evolution, it's all in there.
But getting that story out to, well, everyone else, that's the tricky part.
It really is.
There's actually a story in one of our sources about trying to publish a book on Hipparcos for a general audience.
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
Well, apparently, U.S. publishers just weren't interested. They felt, nobody really knew about Hipparcos.
Despite its huge scientific impact.
Why? And the irony, the author got asked to write a Hubble book instead, something they knew much less about, technically.
Just because Hubble had the pictures, the public recognition.
Exactly. It really underlines that point.
Yeah.
You need the data, sure, but you also need a compelling way to show it.
So how did they start bridging that gap?
Hmm.
Especially with Hipparcos back then.
Well, one of the really clever early approaches was stereoscopic projection.
Ah, like the old 3D glasses.
Pretty much. Back in 97, apparently, there was a lecture using pairs of 35-millimeter slides, polarized filters on the projectors, polarized glasses for the audience.
And suddenly that flat star field pops into 3D. You see the depth.
Imagine seeing the space between stars for the first time, not just points on a screen. Apparently, it made a huge impact.
I bet, leading to bigger things.
Yeah, it paved the way for a much bigger setup at a major astronomy conference in 2000. Twin projectors, early stereo videos even, for like 1,000 people.
That's quite a production.
And get this, there's a great anecdote. The person supplying the polarized glasses, an amateur astronomer himself.
Ah,
He apparently didn't believe you could get a stereo effect for stars, said they were too far away.
how to explain parallax, I guess? The tiny shifts.
Exactly. Had to convince him that those tiny measured differences were enough to create that 3D illusion. So you go from a phone book catalog to actually seeing depth.
And polarized light is smart for that. It's cleaner than, say, the old red-green anaglyph glasses. Each eye gets a slightly different view.
And your brain does the rest, building the 3D image.
Right. And apparently the subtle colors of the stars, which these missions also measure really precisely, actually help the brain lock onto that depth perception.
Oh, interesting. Extra cues.
Yeah. There's another technique mentioned too, swing stereoscopy.
How does that work?
You basically cycle rapidly between two slightly different viewpoints of the star field. That back and forth motion gives your brain a sense of depth too.
Okay, clever tricks to fool the eye, or rather help the brain interpret the data spatially.
But then things really took off with more computing power.
Totally. We moved beyond static 3D images into simulated fly-throughs.
And that's cool, actually moving through the stars.
Yeah. Instead of just looking at it, you're virtually flying through it. It gives you an intuition for the real 3D structure, the spatial relationships that you just can't get from a flat map.
Challenges our whole, flat sky perspective.
Definitely.
And we need to remember, these missions, Hipparcos and especially Gaia, now they don't just get positions, they get motions.
Right, the proper motions, how stars are moving across the sky and pords are away from us.
Exactly. And if you take those precise motions and basically hit fast forward,
You can see the future.
well, yeah, you extrapolate those movements over thousands, millions of years, you can animate how constellations will change shape.
Our source mentions Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, right? It's going to look totally different way down the line.
It really will. It shows how dynamic the galaxy actually is.
So to make this concrete, one of the sources has animations based on Hipparcos data for the Hyades and Pleiades clusters.
Okay, familiar clusters. What do the animations show?
Well, there are 3 types. One just shows the stars moving, extrapolating their motion over like 60,000 years for the Hyades, 150,000 for the Pleiades.
So you see the cluster members moving together, but also slowly dispersing or changing shape.
Exactly. Then another uses that swing stereoscopy thing we mentioned to show the distances based on Earth's orbit, the parallax effect.
Oh, showing how we measure distance using that apparent shift. A parsec, by the way, is just over 3.2 light years. It's the standard unit tied to that parallax angle.
Good point. So when we talk about, say, 100 or 200 parsecs, that's our fairly local galactic neighborhood.
Right. And the third animation type.
It combines both. It shows the amplified parallax effect sort of superimposed on the actual space motion.
Okay, so that really drills down into how we figure out both distance and motion from the data.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, really illustrative.
And then, of course, Gaia comes along. The data volume just explodes.
Oh, massively. Which enables even bigger, more amazing visualizations, like that proper motion movie.
Ah, yes. Jacqueline Faraday's work. That's incredible. It shows stars within 200 parsecs,
Our solar neighborhood.
over 1.5 million years.
Yeah.
And each second of video is 25,000 years.
Whoa. What do you actually see in that?
You see whole groups of stars, clusters drifting together. You see these super fast halo stars just zipping through. It really gives you a feel for the hustle and bustle of the galaxy.
We should mention the links are available for people to check out. Definitely worth seeing.
Absolutely. And Dr. Faraday got recognized for this work too, not just the science, but the public engagement side. She called Gaia one of humanity's greatest missions. High praise.
And it makes sense understanding how stars form and live.
So, building on those earlier cluster visualizations, Gaia lets us paint this much broader picture of motion across a big chunk of the galaxy.
And the science community is digging into Gaia's results, obviously. There was a big study in late 2020 looking at stars within 100 parsecs using the early data release 3.
Right, the first detailed assessment of Gaia's impact on our knowledge of the solar neighborhood.
And what's great is they also made graphics and videos. There's a fly-through of over 300,000 nearby stars.
Wow.
And another showing the actual galactic orbits for tens of thousands of them. Again, links available. It's really immersive stuff.
And it goes even bigger. There's the 3D Universe Simulator from Stefan Jordan and his team in Heidelberg.
What's that one?
It contains over 1 billion objects from Gaia. Basically lets you navigate freely through the whole modeled galaxy.
1 billion. That's staggering.
And crucially, it supports stereoscopic projection too, so you can get that immersive 3D view on a huge scale.
Taking that early Hipparcos 3D idea to the absolute max.
Pretty much.
And for people who want to explore the Gaia data themselves, there are tools like Kevin Jardine's maps.
Yeah, those are fantastic. Interactive maps where you can fly around, click on stars, see their properties.
Making that huge data set genuinely accessible. It's brilliant.
So we've gone from star positions to motions to clusters to huge chunks of the galaxy. But the sources also zoom out even further, right? To cosmology.
They do. They bring in things like the Millennium Simulation.
Which isn't Gaia data, but models dark matter across the whole universe. Billions of particles interacting.
Showing that large-scale cosmic web structure.
And how galaxies like ours form within it, it gives context.
Yeah, context for the structures Gaia is seeing locally.
And that precise Gaia data is now becoming vital for actually testing these big cosmological models.
There's also the TNG-50 simulation mentioned.
Right, that one zooms in, simulating the formation of a single-disk galaxy, something that looks a lot like our own Milky Way, over billions of years.
Showing spiral arms forming, all that intricate detail.
And what's really kind of mind-blowing and brings this whole thing full circle
What's that?
is how well these cosmological simulations based on physics, dark matter, the universe's expansion, how well they're starting to look like the actual detailed structures Gaia is mapping out in our own galaxy.
Ah, so theory and observation are really coming together. Astrometry is meeting cosmology head-on.
Exactly. It's a pretty exciting time.
So it's clear that tackling that initial challenge, making this incredibly complex data engaging, has led to some amazing innovations.
Definitely. From those first polarized glasses showing depth between stars.
To these incredible fly-throughs and simulations from Gaia that let you explore billions of objects, visualization is just crucial now.
It's more than just making pretty pictures, though. It fundamentally changes how you understand our place in it all. Makes it tangible.
You really grasp the scale and the dynamics in a new way.
Yeah, it fosters a much deeper appreciation, I think.
Which really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What's next? How might future tech, VR, AR, whatever comes along, how might that change how we visualize and understand the universe even more?
That's a fascinating thought. Where does visualization take us next in comprehending the cosmos?